Ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's second keynote address, the former Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff Committee, General Zubair Mahmood Hayat, Nishan-e-Imtiaz Military. General Zubair joined Pakistan Army in 1976. He had a decorated military career that spans over the 4 decades. He is a graduate of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, USA, Command and Staff College, Cambridge, UK, National Defense University, Islamabad. He has 2 master's degrees in war studies and military science. He is also a recipient of Humanities Gold Medal, Master Gunner Award, and Master Warfighter Award. He has delivered lectures on peace, security, and defense in foreign military institutions and think tanks across 6 continents of the globe. During his service, the General has commanded an infantry division and corps. His key appointments include Army and Air Advisor, United Kingdom, Chief of Staff of a Strike Corps, Private Secretary to Chief of Army Staff, Director General Staff Duties at General Headquarters, Director General Strategic Plans Division, and Chief of General Staff Pakistan Army. In recognition of his meritorious services, he has been decorated with Nishan-e-Imtiaz Military, Hilal-e-Imtiaz Military. He is also recipient of Legion of Merit of Turkish Armed Forces, King Abdul Aziz Medal of Excellence by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Defense Commendation Medal of Italy. He has been a member of National Security Committee and also the Deputy Chairman of the National Command Authority, the NCA. In November 2016, the General took over as the 16th Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff Committee. He is also the 3rd Colonel-in-Chief of Regiment of Artillery. In November 2019, he hung his uniform after 43 years of military services. The General continues to give lecture on geostrategy, nuclear matters, issues pertaining to defense and security. Sir, thank you for joining us today, and please, kindly, I welcome you to share your remarks. Thank you.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by thanking SVI for inviting me to this IPC 24, the first one, and I hope many more. I am delighted to be among many experts sitting here today. I know you have had a long day and must be looking to wind down, so I won't stand here for long. Let me start by saying that I'm aware that your discussions today revolve around strategic stability, arms control, non-proliferation, and space. And I'm told that these discussions have been both substantive and productive. My compliments. My focus, therefore, today would be to cap it up with a big picture. Ladies and gentlemen, as we meet today at a time when the world is witnessing a rapid and dangerous unraveling of the strategic stability that has underpinned global security for decades. That stability was rooted in mutual understanding of deterrence and established norms of warfare that are now being eroded by disruptive technologies, hybrid warfare, and shifting global power dynamics, all within the ambit of the great power competition. These elements are reshaping how states interact, how they perceive threats, and they prepare for conflict. Therefore, I believe that strategic stability, from being a pillar, has moved to be a precarious balancing act. For decades, strategic stability has been built on a precarious balance of power, particularly between nuclear-armed states. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction kept nuclear powers in check. Countries understood the cost of nuclear power was far outweigh any potential gains. The arms control treaties signed over the years, such as the INF Treaty and the New START, were not perfect, but they contributed to maintaining a fragile equilibrium. However, we now face an era where this balance is rapidly disintegrating. The collapse of the key arms control treaties and the resurgence of nuclear competition between major power has left a vacuum in strategic stability. Nuclear arsenals are being modernized, new nuclear weapon systems are being developed, and lines between deterrence and provocation are becoming blurred. There is thus a growing risk that miscalculation or misunderstanding could trigger a catastrophic escalation. We are once again on the brink of a global arms race. Look at the Quad and AUKUS. The Quad have introduced destabilizing effects in the Indo-Pacific region by intensifying geopolitical competition. The strategic and political alignments like the Quad and the AUKUS military focus, including Australia's nuclear-powered submarine, are seen as efforts to contain and confront China. This is dangerous. These developments push the region to an arms race, especially in naval capabilities. Additionally, these alliances may disrupt regional cohesion by alienating South Asian nations, which only often prefer neutrality and economic cooperation over militarization. This can lead to a more polarized regional order, thus increasing security dilemmas amongst power in the so-called Indo-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, technological disruption is the new battlefield. The destabilization of the global security goes beyond traditional nuclear arsenals. Today we live in a world where the most pressing threats are probably no longer purely conventional or nuclear. The advent of disruptive technologies, especially in space, cyber and AI, have introduced a new set of challenges, making the concept of strategic stability far more complex. First, we have the cyber warfare, the invisible front that has proven capable of undermining national security without a single missile being fired. From cyber attacks on critical infrastructures such as power grids and financial systems to the theft of sensitive data, both national and military, cyber capabilities allow states and non-state actors to inflict severe damage, often without clear attribution. The very nature of cyberspace is borderless, fast-moving, and difficult to regulate, making it a breeding ground for instability. Therefore, deterrence in the cyber domain is difficult to achieve. As the lines between civilian and military targets are increasingly blurred and the ability to retaliate against such attacks remain uncertain. Then we have weaponization of space. It's not a question of if, it has already been done. Rise of autonomous weapon systems, the development of AI-driven military technologies such as unmanned drones, autonomous submarines, and robotic ground forces. All this, ladies and gentlemen, is fundamentally altering the character and probably the nature of warfare. These systems can operate faster with greater precision and at a lower cost than human-controlled forces. However, they raise profound ethical and strategic questions. What happens when autonomous systems misidentify targets? What happens when decisions to life and death are handed over to algorithms? The lack of accountability in such scenario is a serious concern, and the potential for accidental escalation is real. Moreover, space, once considered a sanctuary from conflict, is now a militarized domain. Satellites, which we rely for everything from GPS to communication, are increasingly vulnerable to attacks. Anti-satellite weapons, or ISATs, have been tested and deployed, and we have seen that in our neighborhood also, creating the potential for devastating attacks on countries' infrastructure, military command and control systems, and surveillance capability. The militarization of space has the potential to trigger new conflicts, as any attack on a space asset could lead to immediate and unpredictable retaliation. Another word that I would like to highlight is hybrid war and its relationship with deteriorating strategic stability. Hybrid war, which I call as a war without rules. Adding to these technological threats is the rise of hybrid war. The strategy that blends conventional military forces with irregular tactics, including cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, economic coercion, and the use of proxy forces. Unlike traditional warfare, hybrid warfare operates in the shadows, exploiting political and social vulnerabilities to destabilize nations from within. What makes hybrid warfare particularly dangerous is its non-attribution. Cyber attacks, information warfare, and covert operations are hard to trace, allowing aggressor to avoid direct accountability. This complicates the ability of targeted states to respond, often leaving them unable to retaliate without escalating the conflict. Undermining institutions, hybrid warfare doesn't just operate on battlefields, it strikes at the heart of societies and institutions, thus leading to instability. Disinformation campaigns, social media manipulations, and the spread of conspiracy theories are used as tools to weaken institutions, undermine public trust, and sow discord. The goal is not just to achieve military objectives, but to corrode the internal cohesion of nations. The election interferences, both in the West and also in our part, is a prime example. These tactics are now being used worldwide, eroding trust in the system and blurring the line between domestic politics and foreign interference. When citizens no longer believe in the legitimacy of their own governments, strategic stability is at risk, not from external enemies, but also from within. Now, a few words about strategic stability in South Asia. I would be amiss if I do not say that there is growing instability in South Asia. This is due to the rise of Hindutva and shift of the Indian state from India to Bharat. This region was already fraught with complex security challenges. It is now witnessing a growing instability due to the rise of Hindutva ideology in India and rebranding of the Indian state to Bharat. Under the influence of Hindutva, an ultra-Hindu religious nationalist ideology, Indian political and social landscape is being reshaped in ways that threaten the delicate balance of religious and ethnic coexistence, not only within India, but more importantly, across the borders. The increasingly exclusionary policies and rhetoric of the BJP, the RSS, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and Bajrang Dal, which marginalize the country's Muslim population and other minorities, have fueled internal tensions within Bharat and have created a climate of polarization. This has not only alienated the 200 million Indian Muslims, but has also sent shockwaves throughout neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Maldives. We are deeply concerned about the treatment of ethnic and religious Muslims, our brothers and sisters, across the border. This recent move to rename India as Bharat is an extension of the ideological project to assert Hindu primacy in Indian national identity. This shift signals a deeper departure from the secular principles enshrined in Indian Constitution and has increased the existing geopolitical tensions in South Asia. These developments are further evidence of India's increasing Brahmanism, masking as aggressive ultra-nationalism. The rise of Hindutva and the transformation of India into Bharat is likely to increase the potential for a regional conflict, thus further destabilizing South Asia. Another aspect of destabilization in South Asia is the nature of India's growing nuclear program. This is another critical factor undermining strategic stability. Unlike other nuclear powers, India is operating its nuclear arsenal with extremely little transparency and double talk. As India expands its nuclear capability, developing advanced delivery systems like the ICBMs and the sea-based nuclear deterrence, there is an increasingly concern about what India is doing and why, and its future ambitions. This heightens tensions with Pakistan. Without confidence-building measures or transparent policies, the risk of miscalculation or misunderstanding rises significantly, threatening not only the security of South Asia, but also global strategic stability, as a nuclear conflict in South Asia could have devastating consequences far beyond the region. And I've always maintained Kashmir is the world's largest nuclear flashpoint. So what next? What do we need? First, there's a need for a new framework of cooperation in this new area, in this new era of strategic instability. It is clear to me, at least, that the old frameworks are no longer sufficient. The post-World War II institutions and treaties designed for a more simpler and predictable time must evolve to address today's challenges. More specifically, we need to rethink arms control in the 21st century. Agreements like New START must be expanded to include new weapon technologies, cyber weapons, autonomous systems, and space-based assets. We must create binding international norms to limit the development and deployment of destabilizing technologies and to regulate the use of AI, especially in military operations and more especially in nuclear side. Secondly, international cooperation is paramount. The threat that we face today do not respect borders. Cyber attacks, disinformation, and hybrid warfare are transnational in nature. No single country can tackle these challenges alone. We need robust multilateral frameworks to share intelligence, coordinate responses, and develop collective defenses against these threats. Unfortunately, I am not very hopeful on these accounts. Finally, we must reinvest in diplomacy. At a time when the trust between the nations is at historic low, dialogue is more important than ever. Open channels of communication, particularly between major powers, are essential to prevent misunderstandings and miscalculations. The stakes are too high for silence or disengagement. So in conclusion, we are living through an era of unprecedented challenges to global strategic stability. The great power competition have made us and the world more dangerous, more unpredictable, more fragile than at any time since the Cold War. It is up to us, through diplomacy, cooperation, and innovation, to develop new frameworks that can restore strategic stability and prevent the catastrophic consequences of a complete breakdown in global security. The stakes could not be higher, and time for action is now. I thank you for a patient hearing.
Sir, thank you for joining us today and sharing your invaluable insights with us. We greatly appreciate your time and expertise. I would like to request Dr. Naeem Ahmed Salik to present conference memento to our keynote speaker. Yes, sure. I would like to request our keynote speakers, moderators, and SVI team to kindly assemble in front of the stage for a group photo.